Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at Novo Nordisk. It is time for another update, and on this chart we have been tracking this idea of a larger 5-wave move to the upside within an impulse, where here we have a wave 1 up, wave 2 down, third wave up, fourth wave down, and I realize I don't have the wave 2 here. Yeah, let's add this as well. But right now, within this interpretation, we may be in a larger correction in a wave 4. This is assuming that in the wave 3 we already have a significant top. Now, that could be the case, and I would expect within such a retracement in the wave 4 to get into the area of support between the $36.4 all the way down to the $7.6 level. Now, within this interpretation, within this structure, we don't need to max out the area of support. Generally, the ideal target for wave 4 is the 38.2% retracement, in which case it is, or in this case it is the $15.3. It is very much in line with structural support, yeah, the beginning of this entire movement to the upside, but there is a slight problem with this scenario. I would actually have to assume that the wave 4 bottom is here, because I would need to see a 5-wave move to the upside within the 5th wave. Well, it could be the case, but it's not necessarily my preferred scenario. I might rather prefer that we extend within this larger wave 3, yeah, that the 5th wave is not yet done, and that the wave 4 actually bottomed here instead. And this is exactly what we are tracking here in the yellow interpretation. In this scenario, we are tracking a larger ending diagonal within the 5th wave, and I would assume that we only have the wave 1, 2, and 3 complete. Possibly the wave 4, especially now that we have extended lower. Since the previous video we touched the last level of support and created this massive reaction to the upside, yeah? From the local low within this correction we are already up 40%. Now, of course, we need to get through the area of resistance that we have here for the green interpretation, because this larger ABC structure could still play out. But as of right now, it is still quite an interesting possibility, quite an interesting area, because even if we are only to extend higher within a retracement in a wave B, there is actually still some potential, yeah, from this low even to the first level of resistance for the wave B, which is a likely level to be reached, yeah, if we are really done with the wave A to the downside, which I believe there is a very good chance we might be. And in this case, yeah, it would be from the local low about 64-65% to the first level of resistance, yeah, let's say 63. We might actually even get to the last level of resistance. Well, we might still be in a bearish scenario and be over 160% up. Well, we won't necessarily focus too much on those targets, because I will be tracking the internal structure. I will be tracking a pattern that might allow us to extend higher within a 5th wave and even take us to new all-time highs, yeah? Imagine the targets then. We might be looking like for 300%, 400%, something like that. Now, at this point, within this structure, there certainly is a lot of risk that we are in the green interpretation, because within this structure to the downside, I could consider this to be a 5-wave move. I could track this as something like a 1, 2, 3rd, 4th, and a 5th. We can even look for the ideal target for such an idea for the wave 3, and that is the 138.2% extension. We got way past that. We are certainly within the realm of possibility of having a 3rd wave be built, and it could easily be considered a larger leading diagonal. That is a very much valid interpretation, especially since within this 5th wave we extended even lower, but we have reacted quite nicely to the last level of support. Of course, for me, a break below the last swing low in this wave 4 correction, so a break below the beginning of the current internal uptrend, would be a pretty strong signal that we should expect the larger correction in the wave 4 in green to occur. Well, in that case, we would expect further considerable downside, yeah, because within this interpretation we would expect something like an ABC movement, and the ideal target for the wave C is the 100% extension of the wave A. Now, we don't need to get there, but for example, if we get to the 38.2% retracement in this wave B correction, we could be looking at the $21 level, yeah, that would be around the ideal target for this push to the downside. Fortunately, we will be able to track internal areas of support that would signal to us that the structure to the upside is going to fail, because we can't rely fully on the internal patterns within this area. I would need to see signals that this structure will not manage to extend higher. But before we get into the actual structure forming to the upside within this area, I want to discuss a bit about the actual patterns we were tracking in the previous video, because here we were looking for a potential ABC movement. It was a valid interpretation. It wasn't a high probability scenario necessarily, because within the wave A we only had a 3-wave move to the upside. Those are always rather risky. Yeah, we are under severe risk that this structure will end up failing, and it sure did. We broke below the area of support, we retraced back into it, but ultimately we failed. We broke below the beginning of the wave A. This is not a valid interpretation. Then in the orange scenario, we were looking for continuation lower. We were looking for this as a larger ABC movement. We were looking for the 5th wave down. Well, we extended lower within the wave 3. We can even drag the area of resistance for the wave 4 down. And surely enough, we built the entire pattern. I am considering this structure now full, and even though we didn't break above the beginning of this wave down, yeah, we are already at quite high levels, and it is highly likely that this structure is already complete. It is already done. Now, what can we track in our movement to the upside? And by the way, for resistance, I wouldn't necessarily be watching for anything else than we have here in the green interpretation. So the levels between the $71 all the way up to the $115 level. I would highly expect, even within a failure to follow through in the yellow interpretation, that we at least get into this area. Now, for the internal structure here, I could be considering even a potential series of 1-2 setups to have occurred initially, where this could have been a 1-2, 1-2, and then another 1-2 here. Very easy to track these patterns. A 3rd wave could have a top within this area. I could see still a tiny extension. Now, we aren't able to go too much into the tiny time frame here, but I will be tracking an internal area of support for such an idea in a 1, 2, 3, 4th, and the 5th. And within this interpretation, I would like to see extensions higher. Ideally, we follow through within this pattern, because if we can build here the 5-wave move to the upside, we will have a high potential trade setup, and it might still be within the wave B in green, but it will still be able to provide us an incredible risk-reward ratio for a great opportunity. Yeah, we followed this in a 1, 2, 3, 4th, and the 5th. We would then expect a 3-wave correction, and then we would expect at the very least another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Even if it is within the green interpretation, a lot of potential can be present if such a pattern emerges. But for that, yeah, I would need to see the 5-wave structure. And at this point, I could see this wave 3 as being complete. I don't really need additional highs, but I would actually prefer them. Within this movement to the upside, within this wave 5, I would consider this to be something like 1, 2, 3, 4th, and the 5th. I would like to see still another high, yeah? But if we don't get that, it might be a truncation. It could still work out. I wouldn't look too much into that tiny time frame. Yeah, it's just a couple of days of trading time. And I would be still watching the area of support here at the levels between the $58 all the way down to the $55 level. As long as we actually hold these levels, we can still track a potential impulse to form, but a failure would certainly hurt our chances to form a 5-wave move to the upside. It would certainly hurt our chances to track a restrictive interpretation where, yeah, failure is quite apparent. Yeah, if we fail here to hold the 50% retracement, it is apparent that this structure will most likely not build a reliable pattern. We will need to be patient to actually see the larger pattern emerge, to actually see clearly a 5-wave move to the upside, because it might still work out within a leading diagonal. This could work out as a 1, 2, 3, 4th, and 5th. Where the wave 4 could retrace much lower in such a case, but I would need to see the entire pattern, and even then, it would not be the same quality of a trade setup. But for now, we are still holding at very high levels. We are still able to track an internal area of support here, within which we haven't even gotten into. We might still get an extension within this wave 3, and if we do, we would need to slightly adjust this area of support along with it. But in the end, yeah, this is what we are watching. This area is relevant, and it's not necessarily to be considered for a trade setup, at least not within this time frame, because from a large time frame perspective, yes, we are still quite deep within the area of support in the yellow interpretation. Again, from a large time frame perspective, I actually prefer the yellow scenario. It allows a correction in the wave 4 in this area that makes a lot more sense, and I would still need to see the 5-wave move to the upside within this area to have a reliable pattern. Otherwise, to be honest, the entire structure might actually work better within the idea of a larger leading diagonal, and yeah, that is generally just not good, and I would probably prefer to even consider other charts better. But for now, yeah, there still is potential. It can still work out, and we did create a quite nice reversal from the bottom that we formed here locally at the last level of support. And for now, these are the levels. This is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.